weather being absolutely miserable at the moment, I thought, okay, well, beginning of the year, we'll get an electric car. And I thought I'd really like to try the very, very interesting Hyundai. I think that's a Hyundai. I think it's called Hyundai now with all their adverts and stuff.
Oh, it's Hyundai, by the way.
This is a really interesting car to me, mainly because of the way it looks. Let's be honest, it's like, you know, if you go to a restaurant, you eat your meal first with your eyes. This one is a great looking car. I think it's futuristic, it's different. The creases in the lines are wicked. The lights, the way they've used light as a design is really cool. So there's like a light bar on the front, all the square lights, the headlights. It's all three-dimensional and really, really cool looking. And I think that makes it a little bit more interesting than some of the other stuff that's out there, like Teslas and things like that, which I've said it and I will say it again. A Model 3 looks like a bar of Dove soap. This doesn't, it looks great. It comes across in pictures as being quite a small car, but then when you actually see it up close, it's not a small car, it's quite a big car. Also on this one, with its few extras, the matte paint, the 20-inch wheels, they look fantastic. They look brilliant. It's a really good looking car. Put down in the comments whether you think this is a really good looking car or not. I think this is the best looking EV out there at the moment, in my opinion. The interior of this car is massively light and spacious and airy. It's like being in an enormous greenhouse. It's great. You can see everything. The A-pillar isn't too big. You can see everything around you. And it's just a really, really nice place to be. The design language comes into here as well. The futuristicness carries on in here. The materials are very nice. They feel far more expensive than nearly said Hyundai, than Hyundai would suggest. Hyundai are the third largest manufacturer now in the world, and you can really see that they're bringing their game on. You've got this wonderful two-spoked steering wheel in front of you with loads of gadgets and toys all over it. You've got every single sort of safety measure on here for the cruise control. You've got the lane assist, you've got the steering assist, you've got every sort of assistance you could possibly think of. There's loads of rake and reach in the steering wheel itself, so you can get into a really good position in this car. I like the way I sit in this car. There's one drawback to that. I'm a very short little angry man, and I like to be in sort of the racing driver position, if you like, with arms slightly bent, so you can sort of feel the car around you the best possible. Now, in that case, I put the steering wheel in the wrong place so that I cut off the top of the screen in front of me, and it sort of obscures the view of the screen slightly. But, you know, that's my decision. I could change it if I wanted to. With the screens, these are all touch screen. They're very big, they're very bright, and they are really, really responsive. This one you can all swipe and do all of the things you need to do with it. The only thing I don't like about it is, because it's a big white slab, I don't like the fact that the screens aren't sort of molded into two, and I don't like the fact that it's got quite a big bezel. I think it looks a little bit to me like a first generation iPad, whereas as the iPad has got newer and newer and newer, you could then get the smaller bezel around the outside. That's being very picky and splitting hairs. All of this down here for the climate control is all touch. Everything's touch, everything's sensitive, everything's great. The stereo in here is fantastic. The storage compartments are mind-blowing. They're everywhere. You've got some in here, you've got some down here, you've got some down here, you've got more in the front, you've got loads in the back, you've got a drawer here. The glove compartment is just a drawer. It's not, it doesn't drop open, it slides out. It's just a really good practical vehicle, and it looks great. I did 200 miles in this car yesterday, and I have to say, spending a lot of time in here, it was great. It felt premium. It's quiet. There's a little bit of road noise, obviously, because there's no engine noise. You're going to get a little bit of road noise, but it's not a lot. It's not intrusive at all. But in the fact that I spent a load of time in it, I was sat here for 6 hours. The seats were lovely and comfortable. You sit in a very relaxed way. It rolls through traffic beautifully. The steering is light. It's very easy in town. It's brilliant on a motorway. There are chargers in here everywhere. There's USB down here, there's a 12 volt down here. Not that anyone uses a 12 volt anymore. There's then a 3-pin plug in the back that you can actually run anything from. So they've thought about someone that's going to have kids, that's going to need to charge things, that's going to need to put, I don't know, iPads, iPhones, everything in this car. Or obviously it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So you can do everything you need to do in this car. There is not a box that hasn't been ticked in here. It's they've thought of everything. It's like they had a brainstorming session and went, right, if you could put everything in a car, let's just put everything in this one. It's very, very good, and I have to say hats off to them. There is technology aplenty in this car. I mean, there's nothing that I can't think of. Rear reversing cameras. When you indicate on a motorway, there's a little camera that comes up here that shows you the lane, so you can then check to see if there's someone coming. So it's like an extra check in your mirror. Also, when you're indicating a roundabout, there's never any need anymore for you or your wife to curb a wheel, especially with these lovely 20-inch rims that it's got on this car. You wouldn't want to do that. Now, I'm not saying that my wife does that, but she has in the past. I'm not going to lie to you. She has curbed wheels several times on my Range Rover, and it makes me upset every single time I look at it. But there we go. I'll get one of these. So if you're parked in a very tight space next to your Teslas or whatever else you're charging next to, and you need to get it out, but you don't want to open a door, you don't want to ding your door or ding someone else's door because you're a nice human being, you can use the key fob to just walk the car out of the space or move the car back into the space. So just go forward and backwards. But again, that's something that you just don't expect on something like this. There are 3 different versions of the Ioniq 5. There are 2 rear-wheel drive ones and there's 1 4-wheel drive one. The 2 rear-wheel drive ones come in the smaller motor one, which has a 58 kilowatt-hour battery and 170 horsepower. The second one in the range, which is this one, is also a single motor rear-driven car. That one has a 73 kilowatt-hour battery and 217 horsepower. The third, and I suppose the daddy of the range, is the dual motor. So that one has the highest performance, and obviously it's going to be the quickest, but it's also going to be the heaviest. But that one has 305 horsepower, but has the same battery that this one has at 73 kilowatt hours. At no point over the few days that I've had this car though, have I thought that this rear-driven 73 kilowatt hour car has felt sluggish in any way, shape or form. It's not a car that I would hustle necessarily. It's a car that if I put my foot hard down now, you accelerate beautifully and you ride the wave of torque that all of these electric cars have, and it's instant performance. But at no point have I thought that I need more performance in this car. I just don't. So apparently, between all the ranges, you'll get between 238 miles and nearly 300 miles. I'm going to call bull on that, because I fully charged this car the other day and it said that I was only going to get 220 miles out of it. Whether this is because this car's done 14,000 miles and is a press car, I don't know, but that's all it said. And it got under that. So I drove all the way to Birmingham and all the way back, and I used a full tank of fuel, and that was under 200 miles. Now, admittedly, I was driving at normal speeds on a motorway, middle lane, outside lane, that sort of thing, but I was being cautious, and I had the cruise control on most of the way. I did a load of town driving as well through that, because I had to wiggle through some towns to avoid the traffic, but it did 200 miles on a range. All of the 3 models come with 220 kilowatts of charging capacity, so fast charging, and apparently you can charge it from 20% to 80% in about 20 minutes. So now we get onto the driving dynamics. We've done all the bits and bobs about it being electric, etc. Now we get onto it, the fact that it is actually a car. Now, is it a car that I actually want to drive? Yes, it is. It's a really good car to drive. Now, what I would say is it's got a load more feedback through the steering than I thought it was going to have. Light at slow speeds, and you can go through all the different modes here. So there's 3 different modes. There's eco mode, there's normal mode, and there is sport mode. At the moment, I'm in normal mode. Just leave it in. No, I'm not. Oh yes, at the moment, I'm in normal mode. Normal mode, the throttle response is lovely. It just feels like a normal car to drive. You can change the regeneration of the brakes at any time on the paddles. They're not gear selectors. They're changing, so I can put it on, God almighty. So you can literally put it on so it feels like I'm actually going to have to speed up to get to the traffic lights I'm getting to because it's braking so hard. I don't like that because it makes me feel sick. You would get used to it, so I like to leave it so it rolls like a normal car when you've depressed the clutch. When you put it in sport mode, it sharpens up the throttle response, you get more weight in the steering, but you know, again, as I say, are you really going to hustle this car? It's not exactly a track car, is it? It's a big fat electric car, but it's you know, it's not bad to drive in any way, shape or form. I'd actually say it's a really, really nice car to drive. The suspension, I think it's really well judged. Sometimes from front to back, if you go over a sleeping policeman or a speed bump or whatever, it feels like the rebound is a bit, it sort of wallows a little bit, but how often do you really go over those? That's all I would say. Cornering dynamics, it corners really flat and really nicely. It doesn't wallow, it's great. It doesn't feel top heavy, it feels like all of the weight is down low. If you have a charger at home, which most people that buy one of these will do, then it is brilliant. This is a great car. Go and look at it. They look super cool. They're a bit different to a Tesla, a bit different to everything else. And I think the Kia EV6 is probably up there as its main rival. But I think this looks better.